Hello, everyone. Okay, gotta switch my mic. Welcome to class. Welcome to week 8 of videos. We've had more than 8 weeks, just because. Anyway, welcome. A couple of things before I start into the material. Don't forget to submit your comment about the midterm. So if you were unable to attend the midterm performances, in order to receive credit for attendance, you need to watch the full performance. Everybody works so hard on their midterm performances, so please be honest and take the time to watch those performances. And then once you have done that, you can comment on your midterm submission, leaving thoughtful comments on a couple of the performances. Or if you can't figure out how to do that, you can just email those to me and you will receive credit. But don't forget, that is due tomorrow at midnight. And then today, just less than an hour ago, Emily sent an announcement with some midterm evaluations. So this is just a couple of questions about how the class is going, what you think is working, what you think isn't working. And this is really helpful for all of you who were here last semester. We did make a lot of changes based off of your midterm evaluation comments. So if you want to see some changes, please make your voice heard. And then another reminder, you can slow down the metronome on Piano Marvel, but Ben and I will ask you to resubmit assignments without a penalty if we feel you are going too slow. And if you're not sure what too slow is, you can email me and I'll give you like the slowest metronome marking that I think is appropriate. But a good test is if you could sing along with it reasonably without it sounding like not music. That's kind of a good test of what's too slow. Okay, so let's jump into the material for week 8. Let's see, just get that pulled up. Okay, so first, sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right, so first we're looking at this nice little etude. When I was playing through this, there are kind of a couple things that I would want to watch. The first thing is my left hand. I want to watch for ways that my hands are closely related. So for example, in the first 2 measures, you move from a major third and then you just move everything down a step and then back up a step. So that's what I mean by watching for ways that your hands can be related, or your left hand. Sorry, I am like losing my mind today. The way that your left hand can relate to each progressive change. So this is down a step from this, which goes back up a step. So that's one thing I'm watching for, is any way these are closely related. From here, this third measure, to the fourth. You probably can't see my hand very well or at all, but I have my pinky prepared to play this G on the bottom and just allowing my second finger, which is already over D, to play D. And that's the fingering that they suggest we use. Watch your fingering for this, but don't rely on it to tell you what notes to play. Notice these are the same fingerings, but different notes. These are just a couple things that I would be watching for in my left hand. Watch for repeated patterns. For example, you've played this on the first line. For the right hand, patterns again. So the first thing I'm looking at is each, for here, the beginning, each set of each measure starts on a G, right? It stays on a G. And then the second note is either a sixth or a seventh above that G. And then after that, it walks down by steps. So these are just a couple things I'm watching for. I'll show you what that looks like when I'm playing. So G up a sixth, and then G up a seventh, and then G up a sixth, and then G up a fifth. So I think easier than reading individual notes is seeing what interval you start with and then following the flow from there. This is a good one for that. One way you could practice this is forget the easy stuff and practice the harder stuff. So for example, you could just practice the first 2/8 notes of each measure. So practice the interval leap. So you have a sixth, a seventh, a sixth, and then a fifth. And you could continue this. We move down to E, a sixth, and then a fifth. And then a fifth, sort of a diminished fifth, starting on F sharp. Anyway, so these are just kind of shortcuts to instead practice each note each time all the way through. This is one way you could practice smaller sections. I'm going to slow this down to 75 instead of 90 something, and we'll see if this is an appropriate tempo, and I'll play the whole thing for you. I changed the page. I have to apologize today. I don't know where my brain is, but it is not here. Okay, here we go.
Set, go.
Okay, so yeah, 75 is a good tempo for that, not much slower than that. If I know some of you like to record without Piano Marvel, if you're doing that, this week especially, but always be careful that you're playing the correct rhythm. So for this one, you don't necessarily, I mean, I want you to play everything right. I want you to hold when you're holding and rest when you're resting. But for this one specifically, make sure you're getting those 2/8 rests at the end of each measure, because if you ignore those, it changes. Anyway, you want to make sure you're getting those rests. Rest, 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 so that you're not changing the meter. This is something that is easy to do when you're playing on your own without Piano Marvel. So if you're doing that, watch that, because we will take off points for incorrect rhythm. Okay, let's move on to the next page. So here is my suggestion for page 264A. I immediately looking at this, I can see broken chord, broken chord, broken chord, broken chord. It's just broken chords, right? So depending on how you feel about analysis, if that's helpful to you, take some time to analyze these chords. So G major, D in first inversion, E minor, right? B minor in first inversion. That's one thing you could do if you find that helpful. Or memorize the intervals. So all thirds, third and then a fourth on top. So third and then a fourth. That's what I mean. And then thirds, third and then a fourth on top. Thirds, fourth and then a third on top. Third and a fifth. Thirds. Anyway, so those are a couple ways that you could wrap your head around this quickly. Other things to watch for with these pieces this week is watch for what stays the same between your hands and what changes. So for example, G major chord, G major chord, they're the exact same. D major chord, D major chord, exact same everything, same inversion, same notes. Down here, you have a 5/7 chord, a D7 chord, different, right? Both in root position, but this one has the 7th, this one has the 5th. Anyway, so watch for things that are the same and things that are different. I will play this two ways. I'm going to play it first as blocked chords with Piano Marvel. I'm going to slow it at 80. So it will sound like chun, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, dun, 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 like that, for example, just so I can wrap my head around where my hands are instead of each individual note. Okay, so I'll play this blocked chords.
Set. Go.
You could even take this a step further and do all of these blocked by measure instead of by half bar. That way you're checking harmonies a little bit more, well, immediately instead of waiting to see if you got it right. Okay, now I'll play it regular, the way it says to.
Set. Go.
One more thing about exercises or pieces or exercises where your hands are moving pretty consistently, and especially one like this where they're alternating. As soon as I'm done with my left hand, I'm moving it, and then as soon as I'm done with my right hand, I'm moving it. So notice how there's kind of a natural flow from place to place. This is something that feels really awkward or terrifying if you're not used to moving when you play like this, but this prevents these kind of mistakes where you get each measure really nicely, but then you have to like think, I'm done with this, now I have to start something else. You want to start thinking of it as like a gradual process instead of here, 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 versus here, change, change, change. Anyway, that's a hard thing to do, but I would suggest practicing that way because it's helpful. Eventually it's helpful. Okay, the next piece is very similar. Again, all broken chords. We're in 6/8. This time we are in A minor. So last time we were in G major, I think. So here we are in A minor, but I'm going to follow the exact same steps. First, look for things that are the same. A minor chord, D minor, D minor, G major, G major. Following through, making sure I know what changes. Measure 5 is different. They're no longer hands are the same. Measure 6 looks like they're back to the same. Measure 7 is not. So 5 and 7, watch for those because they're a little bit different. I'll slow this down to 80, just like the last one. And first I'll play blocked chords to get used to where my hands are. This time I'm going to do it by the full measure instead of one hand at a time. No, I changed my mind. I'm gonna do one hand at a time, but still blocked. Okay, here we go.
Set. Go.
That's a good way to practice moving your hands when they're done because there's less motion going on. So I play a blocked chord and then blocked. That allows me more time to think about moving instead of individual notes. Okay, now we'll go back to the way it's written.
Set. Go.
Okay, next page, 264B, is a transposition of the previous page. So on the previous page, we were in A minor, and now we are transposing to G minor, which is down a whole step. So something that is really helpful about transposing to keys that are close in proximity, so these are not closely related, but they're only a step apart, is if you get lost and you're following along here, like you lose track of like the interval that you're doing next. So like you can't remember if you're supposed to go up a second or a third. You can just move whatever you're playing down a step. and apply the two flats, B flat and E flat, and your accidental, which in G minor will be F sharp, because we know this is our leading tone and that's the seventh note of the scale, and in G, the seventh note of the scale is F. So when we do have accidentals in minor keys, they're very likely just going to be the raised leading tone. Anyway, so if you're applying your key signature plus your leading tone, you can just move down a step from where this is if you're relying on that. Personally, I would use that as a backup because it's not often that you're transposing down a step, at least in my experience. So, yeah, instead of doing that always as your first choice, I would suggest being aware of the patterns, like we talked about already, where your hands are playing the same things, where they're playing different things. This is kind of a hard transposition for me personally, and there was something weird that happened in this measure. So, anyway, the timing's a little bit weird. I'm going to try this blocked first. And don't judge me for my mistakes because there will very likely be some. This measure is the one I am particularly aware of. I think I can do this. Okay, so I'm going to play with blocked chords first.
Set. Go.
Yeah, okay. That wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So the thing to watch for myself is I actually just memorized the part that I knew was hard for me. So you'll have to try it first to find out what that place is for you, but then memorize it afterwards. Okay, I'm going to play this again so you can see my hands, but in regular stuff.
Set. Go.
Yeah, okay. That I really played this several times before class just to get a handle of it. So don't feel like you should be able to do this right away. If you do, that's great. But for me, that didn't happen. Okay, Shenandoah, page 267A. This is probably a familiar tune. Okay, so this one especially, we're going to be picky about the rhythm. So even if you don't play with piano marble, I would say practice with it to help you get these meter changes, because we start in 4/4, we change to 3/4, and then back to 4/4, and then back to 3/4. So being aware of that will be really helpful. Okay, so this is lead sheet type notation. Lead sheet because it's telling us the name of the chords. So I'm just going to walk you through all of these. Pull up your own screen so you can see what chords I'm playing, but I want you to see my hands. Okay, so we're in the key of D major, and we start on a D major chord. We move up to E minor and up to F sharp minor. Okay, so those first three chords, D, E, and F sharp, are all just moving up. Don't forget to apply your key signature. Next is a B minor over D. So that means we're going to have D on the bottom, play a B minor chord, and then G over D, and then F sharp minor over C sharp, and then G over B, F sharp minor over A, E minor over G, D over A, B minor root, F sharp minor over A, E minor over G, D over A, and then A7, root position, and D, root position. Okay, so that was fast, but I'm going to do it again pretty similarly, and I'm just going to tell you what I'm looking for. So like I said, D major, everything just moves up by step. And then we're going to keep this F sharp here. And I just kind of drop down to this B minor. And then when we go from B minor to G, same root, they both are over D. I'm swapping out the F sharp for a D. So this is literally what I'm watching for. I'm watching for how closely my hands are to each other. When we go to F sharp minor over C sharp, everything moves down a step. Don't forget your key signature. When we do G over B, it's almost the same concept, except for we're going from a fourth and a third to a third and a fourth. And then again, everything moves down a step, apply the key signature, move down a step, apply the key signature. And then we're swapping intervals, so a fourth on the bottom, third on top for D. And then now when we go from D over A to B minor, I'm keeping these the same and swapping out for a B on the bottom. And now for the next one, I keep the F sharp on top and drop my bottom two. And then everything moves up. Yeah, E minor over G. And then D over A, move everything down. And then swap out this D for an A7. And then root position D. So that was a really fast way to talk through this, but that's the process I'm doing. I'm looking for, are my hands moving this in the same shape, the same distance? Are they moving a little bit different? Is one note staying the same and others changing? Or, that's what I'm doing. So that's the way I think through this. If you have a different way, that's fine. I would suggest for this, use the inversions that they suggest because they're a lot easier that way. Okay, I'm going to play this through so you can hear what it sounds like. Yeah, wish me luck. This timing, the meter changes is hard, so practice this until you can do it absolutely correctly. Here we go.
1, set, go.
Okay, so I definitely want another shot at that because it did not go as well as I know it can. One thing I forgot to mention when I was doing this, the spacings don't always look like what they are. Like, for example, I expect this F sharp to be further over instead of right next to this because this is, a dotted quarter note and this. Anyway, if that's an issue for you, like it is for me, just be aware that you need to be looking not so much at the spacing of the notes. See, this is what I'm expecting to be happening down here. And I expect these to be closer together. Anyway, if that's an issue for you, be aware that the spacing is not always what you should expect it to be. Also, some of these chords change faster than I was ready for. Have this slowed down to 70. Let's try 65. This is probably the slowest, but I'll play it at this and see what it sounds like. Okay.
1, set, go.
It's that last couple of bars. I have to remember those are just all right there. Okay. Yeah. 65, I would say don't go slower than 65. Just, it doesn't, to me, this song sounds like it should be slower, but we don't want it to get draggy. Okay. last page. So we're doing an improvisation. I feel like I've spent a lot of time walking you guys through improvisation, so I think you're probably all okay. This one specifically, there are a couple weird things to watch for, so I'll walk you through those, and then I'll let you work out how you want to do this improvisation on your own. But we're playing off of Roman numerals. We're in the key of A minor. So we have an augmented 3 chord. So remember in A minor, we'll have a G sharp because that's our leading tone. So when you play a 3 chord, which is on C and has a G, that becomes augmented. This is technically right, but in my entire like 20 something years of playing the piano, have never seen an augmented 3 chord in the wild or in nature or in any of my music. Anyway, what I'm getting at is this is uncommon, so be aware that this is kind of weird. You can play any of these chords in any position you want. I really am not concerned about that. In this case, yeah, even the 2/6 chord, if you want to play that in first inversion, that's fine. I'm going to, but you do not have to. Okay, so I'm just going to start by showing you what these blocked chords look like, and I'm going to play 2 chords each bar because they're grouped in threes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1 chord, and then augmented 3, and then a 4 chord, 4 chord again, back to 1, then 1 chord again, and then the 2/6. Yeah, sorry, it's a diminished chord. 5/7. Okay, so if we're going to play this based off of how their stemming is, it would be a little bit different, which I think will be better because then you won't run into your right hand. But we're going to move down to a 3, up to 4, up to 1, and then back down to a 2/6. I put an F sharp in there, so that was my bad. And then 5/7, which again has that raised leading tone, and 1. When you play your 5/7 chord, that has 4 notes technically, but the ones we need to hear are the 1, 3, and the 7, and that's what we usually play in our exercises, right? If you want to add the 5 in there, that's fine. If you want to play a different, whatever inversion, that's fine, as long as you have the 1, 3, and the 7 of the chord. Back to a 1 chord. Okay, and when you're improvising, you need to be playing both hands at the same time, so don't record these hands separate. And if you're doing it with Piano Marvel, they'll help you keep track of the meter. If you're not doing it with Piano Marvel, be really tricky to make sure your right hand matches the meter. So you don't, you could do like a duple meter. I changed it. I was in duple and then I changed it back to triple. Anyway, just make sure your left hand stays consistent and your right hand will kind of fall in line just because your left hand is playing constant eighth notes. Yeah. Okay, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. If you're struggling with improv, send me an email. We can do some practice together. Since I went over that kind of quickly today, well, it doesn't matter how long I take. If you need help with anything, email me. I'm happy to meet with you. Yes. Okay. So I think that's everything for today. Just to quickly go over the reminders for the day. Don't forget to submit your comment for the midterm. It's due tomorrow at midnight. Have your midterm evaluations completed by Friday so that we can take into consideration your experience in this class. Be really picky about rhythm because we will be really picky about rhythm, and slow down if you need to, but we will ask you to resubmit if we feel it's too slow. and email me or Ben anytime for help, or if you have questions or anything about anything, talk to us. We're here for you. Okay, I hope you all have a wonderful day and a great week, and I will see you next Monday.